Tommy Hawkins joins us, ladies and gentlemen. 15 years, 302 games, 665 goals, 2 premierships, Coleman medalist, All-Australian 4 times, best and fairest winner. There's not much this man has not done. While I'm on the stats and before Tommy gets a chance to speak, Dan, I'll give you one guess. How many running bounces has Tom Hawkins had in his 15 years in the AFL?
3? I don't know.
Tom, do you know? Welcome, mate. Welcome. There's your first question. How many running bounces you had in the AFL, mate?
Oh, I reckon you're on the money there. Is it 2? It might be one less than...
Mate, you've had 12 bounces across the journey.
There you go.
Yeah, it's very good. Look, you've had about 6 to 10 years of absolutely no bounces, so you've been stuck in the goal square.
Do you know what, Will? I have a few come back into my memory now, and I've got a few Joe the Gooses, and I've probably had 10 metres of space, and I have taken one a couple of times prematurely, but it's not my strength. You know that.
Forwards.
Running.
Once you get out of the forward 50, I think you got a lot of Josh Kennedy about you. Once you get out in front of the forward 50, you just start quivering a little bit. The brain starts panicking a little. I couldn't see you playing in the back line, to be honest, mate.
No. I've at times tried to play down there in a pre-season, not so much pre-season game, but in the pre-season, I should say. And I'm just all at sea. I sort of liken myself to a bit of a Lance Whitnell. Sort of think I can see the game okay, but just when the ball's coming down, I'm just nowhere. I've got no speed. I can't read the game when it's coming the other way. So I think I've always been destined to be a forward.
I think with the bouncing, do you ever consider the touch on the grass? Like when you're thinking like, man, I gotta throw, like I've done it 12 times in my career. Surely you're thinking you overthinking the bounce.
Am I overthinking it? I had a bad back for a few years. I don't get the opportunity too much. I don't know. I just throw it down and hope it comes up. But you're right. At 12 bounces, it sort of sounds a bit Simon Prestigiacomo like. So remember that bounce that he took that just dribbled out in front of him for a few metres. But maybe I might throw that maybe in season 2022.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we do like to cover the big topics here on BackChat 2.0. So we've started with the big ones there. How many running bounces of Tom Hawkins? You can use that in your upcoming, once you retire. I know that's a few years away, but your upcoming footy shows you'll be doing, mate. You can use that as a stat. Now, the real first question we like to ask our guests on the show, and we've had some pretty decent guests so far, Dan. Tom's right up there, but, we'll see how he copes with this one. Your best sporting achievement, mate. Now, there's a caveat. Not on the footy field. It can't be a football sporting achievement. I need your best sporting achievement not on the football field. Go.
I'm an avid golfer. I haven't got a hole in one yet. So
that's something you haven't done. Perfect.
That's something I haven't done. I was an ordinary cricketer. So can't tell you anything. I did compete in the athletics, as you can probably remember back in the day.
High jumper.
We didn't go in the same events, Scully, but I was a high jumper, and I actually won the APS high jump in year 12.
That's pretty good.
Jumping a measly 190. PB of 195, but
That's
next year the kid that won the APS high jump jumped 220 or something. So I got him on an off year, but that's probably the one that comes to mind, mate.
Well, to put it in context, I mean, you said you're a bad cricketer. Dan's got a cricketing story.
Yeah, I mean, people on the podcast probably haven't heard it yet, but this trophy that you can see in front of you, Tom, is a ball from a match when I bowled 5 for 16 in a final.
Wow.
In under 12s at Chewett Hill Cricket Club. You're not from Perth, so I'll just let you know Chewett Hill Cricket Club is one of the premier cricket clubs going around. The Chewett Hill Lions.
In Chewett Hill.
Yeah, in Chewett Hill.
Best in Chewett Hill for sure.
So that's my trophy, and many people have come and gone by the wayside when comparing their footy, just sports achievements to that.
Well, winning an APS high jump, that's pretty good, Tommy.
Yeah, not bad.
Puts you up there, mate.
Yeah, I'd like to have a few things that I could have given you, but I I was a cricketer. I said I wasn't a bowler. I sort of bowled leg spin and never really had any good figures.
That's what I bowled.
Batsman. But yeah, that's as good as it's got for me off the footy field.
All right, well done, high jumper. Now we're going to get into a bit of the Tom Hawkins journey. There you go.
Tom Hercules.
Tom Hercules. There you go. Tom Hawkins' journey. I want to take you right back from Finley. You get put into private school at Melbourne Grammar, just up the road from Geelong College, and at some point in time, you're rooming with a very good mate of yours and mine, Xavier Ellis. Did you boys get up to a bit of mischief? What were you doing in the boarding room over at MGS?
Well, how does the show rate? Is it a PG rated?
Look, honestly, we swear, and we're both having a couple of whiskeys. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna be public though, mate. Like,
yeah, I know.
Don't get fired.
Of course, yeah, you're right. Well, I was gonna say the first one that comes to mind. We tried to. We didn't actually get it printed, but we were going to raise some money for a footy gathering at the end of our Year 11 or Year 12 season. So we decided to make a nude calendar. We weren't sort of fully nude, but the photos are actually somewhere out there.
Wow!
And it sort of scares me a little bit.
Wow!
That they're around, but we got up to a bit of mischief. We weren't super naughty at all, but we had fun and enjoyed ourselves, and I think that's certainly what endeared me to Zave from an early age. We obviously had footy in common. Zave was quite academic. I think I sort of dragged him down a little bit, but
past tense was.
It was.
You dragged him down.
I didn't even realise I said that. There you go. No, so we had a lot of fun. It was some of the best experiences of my life going to boarding school. I absolutely loved it. Met some great people, not only there, but whether we touch on it, great mates with some of the guys that you went to school with too, Scoey, and we have known each other for a long time, far beyond our footy careers. So it was a pretty cool experience.
Now, are we going to have that audio that we just missed?
Yeah, we've got the audio.
Okay, good. Okay, so Tommy, Dan, who's here to press the buttons, hasn't pressed the record on the video, so we're going to start the YouTube channel show with just a nice little overlay of Tommy Hawkins' face, maybe some bit of a montage of big tomahawk kicking bags of goals on Will Schofield, perhaps over the last 20 years.
There's plenty to pick from.
Now, I've got to ask about Zave. So Zave was a number 3 draft pick,
yep.
Highly touted junior, and he was picked highly. You of course went a year later in the draft, and later in the draft as a father-son pick to Geelong. If we speak hypotheticals and you had to compare the pair, if you took the father-son away, would you have been a top 3 pick? And say you're in the same draft as Zave, would you have been up there in front of Xavier Ellis or behind him?
Good question, Scully. I certainly, if I was his draft year, I would have been a long way behind him, and I think that's pretty much on the money. I had a really good season in 2006. So my Year 12 year. I played well in school footy. I had a really good carnival, the national carnival. So, I had 2 good games. I played pretty ordinary in the last game, but that was probably the stepping stone for. And I suppose that having a dad that played in the system, there was always that bit of talk, and it was relatable for people to talk about. So, if I didn't go father-son. Yeah, who would have known? Maybe top 5 in 2000. Yeah, the 2006 draft, but certainly not in Zave's year. There was, I can't even remember who went number 1. Mark Murphy.
Was that Murphy's year? Yeah.
Daisy. Yeah, and then Zave. So, I'm pretty comfortable to say that I reckon I'd be around the 41st pick that I was picked up in Zave's year, if that makes sense.
Well, you certainly would have been well in front of Will Schofield at number 50, who was very, very rank outsider to get drafted. Now, if you take your mind back to before the draft, now our footy journey, Dan, if you don't know, Tom and I, we've been battling for almost 2 decades. I actually owe...
Well, you've been battling.
Yeah, I've been battling very, very much so. But I have Tom to thank for my, battling AFL career that I put together, because in year 11, I was about to be dropped. We played about the first 6 or 7 games of the year for Geelong College, and the coach at the time had enough of me. His name was Mark Russell. And he basically told me, they've been playing me all over the ground. You know, I was a skinny runner, so they put me on the wing and forward line as ruckman, just an absolute jack of all trades. It was a coaching mistake. Master of none. And they were about to drop me, and we're playing Melbourne Grammar. And he came to me and said, I want to try and play you on Tom Hawkins. And everyone knew who Tommy Hawkins was back then. He was the big 110 kilo bloke playing for Melbourne Grammar in the goal square. Never left.
And some.
And so I said, right, let's go. And I scrapped my way to keeping him to 2 goals that game. I don't know if you remember, Tommy, but it may well be the least amount of goals Tom Hawkins kicked on me in year 11, Geelong College v Melbourne Grammar. Do you remember that, mate?
Yeah, look, I do. I remember, I've got vivid memories, and particularly because my sisters went to college, and I had a great mate that I went to Finley High School, John Bailey, who you went to school with, obviously, and he was playing. I don't know if he played. He would have been.
He would have been in the seconds for sure. Johnny Bailey,
maybe
real battler, John Bailey.
Anyway, so there was a mutual friend. So whenever Geelong College played Melbourne Grammar, it was always one that I penciled in, because I knew, I knew the connections, and I went down to boarding school in year 9, so I still remember playing Geelong College at Melbourne Grammar School Oval in year 9. I remember coming up against the MacArthur twins and yourself and Cam Russell, and so I've got great memories. I do remember that, Will. We very fond ones. We got pumped one day by College at our first game at Todd Road. I remember a few.
Windy.
Yeah, windy.
Very windy.
So I've got great memories of school footy, but particularly Geelong College, because I've had such good connections with the people there. So I'm glad you brought that one up, Will.
Yeah, correct. Now I'm glad I did as well. Got absolutely bathed the rest of my career after that one. Now. You get drafted, father, son, as we've spoken about, and you move into a host family. And that host family is literally across the road from my family home in Geelong. So Admiral Court, it's got a few games and premiership players to come out of that court. You moved in there with Joel Selwood, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
What's your relationship like with him? I mean, you started your career with Joel, and you're literally living with him from day one, and you're still playing with him. It must be incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, where do you start? He's obviously one of my best mates. When you're in a football club environment, you spend a lot of time together. And yeah, he's been a wonderful friend and obviously a wonderful teammate. But the friend element whilst you're playing football is more important than anything. To be fair, so he's been incredible with me over my career. I've had some ups, but I think I've had can comfortably say I've had more tough times than those good days, which probably makes the good days all the more worth it. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. I didn't know Joel before. Actually, I'd met him once before he got drafted to Geelong through Zave. So I'd heard a lot about him with his brothers being in the system, but he was a gun junior with a few injuries. So I still remember Zave texting me saying that we'd got a good one. And then when we moved into Admiral Court, we had a lot of fun in that year and continued to for the last 14. But he's been wonderful for me. I think the biggest thing that I've taken from Joel is he came into the system highly touted. he was a gun junior, as I mentioned, but his work ethic was incredible. And I came in just, being a big kid, talented, but didn't know how to use it. I think I didn't mention that when I jumped in the high jump and won it, I was weighing in at about 112 kilos. So between the carnival in June and July, where I weighed 101 kilos, to my first day at Geelong, where I weighed 113, goes to show my lack of professionalism where I was at. So Joel was amazing from that point of view to help me through that and learn that you don't just turn up and play. So to be fair, I hadn't done a pre-season before, but he's been wonderful for my growth. Wonderful to share the journey with. And we'll continue to for the foreseeable future.
Can I just touch back on something you just mentioned halfway through there, Tommy? The ups and downs of footy, because I tend to probably agree with what you said, but can you touch on what the ups and downs look like, and more downs than ups? I think that's pretty interesting from someone who, reading your stats at the you've done everything that possibly could have been done as a footballer. Can you add a bit to that? Where's that from? Where's those feelings come from?
Yeah, it's a range of things, to be honest. Certainly form. When I came into the system, as I said, I learned a lot within my first year or two. I was playing games. I was probably lucky in the way that there was a bit of a position there for me, and I think Bomber, certainly my coach, for my first 4 years, he was really good with my development. He played me. He probably had every right not to play me some weeks, but I think could see the growth in me as a player if I got enough footy into me. So learning that not every week I was able to play well, and for a long period of time throughout a season was to play actually pretty ordinary. And I didn't really have the tools in my kit bag to get me through that. I hadn't experienced that, so it took me a long time to sort of grasp that one. And ultimately, still the biggest thing that drives me now is to be consistent as a player. I'm still trying to do that, and I've learnt things along the way that help me do that. So there's certainly the form element. And you can attest to the next one. Sky, I lost my mum in 2015, and that was really challenging. That's the hardest thing I've had to go through. Football clubs are wonderful places to be able to heal, because you're supported and surrounded by people that care about you internally, and then externally you've got a lot of support as well through friends and just supporters of the game. So yeah, that was bloody tough. It took me a good couple of years to, just to find my feet again. In that time, I got married and had a kid, and that certainly, or our first child, that certainly helped. Because I'm from a big family. Family is very important to me, and obviously my wife Emma. So it was wonderful to grow a family, but at the same time, I was still in the back of my mind. I was still sort of grieving the passing of my mother, who I was very close with. So, still to this day, often I enjoy talking about that experience and mum, because it's a good opportunity to reflect. I certainly miss her and wish she was here for big occasions that I've been through since losing her, getting married, children, just the day-to-day successes that she would, off the field, but then also on the field, that she would have really enjoyed. So, yeah, there's been a lot of things that haven't travelled our way, but they've been wonderful learning experiences.
It's probably worth sharing I don't know if you know this, Dan, but so I lost my old man. Probably pretty similar circumstances to Tommy, and really I can resonate exactly how you feel and Hawk or felt at the time. You lose your way a little bit. Lost Dad at I can't really remember 2011, 2012, somewhere there, and quite close with him, very close with him, and it just shakes you up a bit. Do you think footy helped or hindered? And my reflection personally, and you go next, but I probably came back to footy very quickly, and it was a bit of a sanctuary for me, and loved being around the boys. But I probably didn't deal or cope with losing a parent like I should have. So my reflections are, I don't know. You live and you learn, don't you? But what did you feel? How did footy help that situation for you?
Well, it's ironic that you say that, because if I had my time again, and I know both my parents, my dad and my mum, loved seeing me play football, because it's something that I love. But I lost mum on the Friday night. Geelong played the Gold Coast on the Saturday. I didn't play, the late withdrawal. The next couple of days were in Geelong, as mum was up there in hospital, and then we went home. We had mum's funeral on the Wednesday, and then I came back and we played North on the Saturday. So I was thinking I was doing the right thing, but in reflection, it would have been nice to have a bit of time. I mean, the football club would have been more than understanding, like most workplaces, but I think I came back to the game probably a bit too soon. Because, probably 2 or 3 weeks later, that was a hard period where it was almost like, mum was gone, but everyone else sort of moved on, and selfishly, like I was trying to still, I still wanted to be relevant she was in my thinking, but, I was thinking everyone else will forget her and they've moved on, and that happens because life moves on. But I certainly, if I had my time again, given the chance, I'd probably take a bit more time away, just to spend with family, and I suppose grieve in a different way. But that's how I dealt with it. I since, going through it, there's been a couple of players that have lost parents along the way, and I've the first year or two actually wrote them a letter, somehow got in contact with them and wrote them letters just to say that it's important to take time if you need it. It's sort of fallen by the wayside since, but it is important to just to have your time, because I think I just came back too early. I mean, I certainly wasn't ready to play the next week, that's for sure.
What does that sort of support look like from a club? Are they saying, if you're putting your hand up to jump back in the team, are they sort of saying, hey, like, do you need some more time, or are they just like, cool, man, whatever you want to do, it's your call?
Yeah, I think from memory it was very much the latter. It was my decision, my call, but I hadn't been playing super well anyway. I'd come off the back of a pretty good year the year before, but I don't know. I thought, I love footy, and it'll be nice. It'll be good to get back and just almost just see everyone and let just sort of almost get that awkwardness back from out of the way from everyone else, because it's hard for me, but it's also hard for everyone else too, to a degree, as teammates. So look, they were wonderful from memory, but I should have just taken a bit more time off.
When Dad passed away, it's remarkable how similar our stories are, Hawk. Dad passed away on a Tuesday. We played Hawthorn on the Friday night, and I played. Can't remember the game. We won. We beat Hawthorn, and they were going well at the time. So it was just a big win. And flew home. Had the funeral the start of that week, and then we were playing in Melbourne the following week. I actually trained with the Falcons down at the Mick Turner Footy Factory. I'm sure I would have trained with some lads that are playing today. I don't quite remember the crop of AFL players that were down there, but I trained with them. Training went for about 3.5 hours. There was no sports scientist down there. I had about 1,000 kicks, and I was just, it was just it was like I think it was a day after the funeral. I was running around sweating, just trying to sweat something out, and I played against Richmond the following week. I punched Jack Rewalt behind the play. I punched him so hard he instantly vomited. He had a projectile vomit as soon as I hit him. And I got 3 weeks. So the same as Hawk. It's funny. It's honestly funny talking about it because I wasn't ready to be playing. Like I'm punching blokes. It was literally 100 meters off the ground, off the ball, and I had my reason for doing it anyway. But shit happens, and just on reflection, it's like there's no way I was ready to play after losing a parent, and I'm sure you probably felt the same way, Hawk.
So you were training with the Falcons just because you were in Melbourne?
Yeah. Well, instead of you can't just roll into another AFL game without training, and I didn't want to train by myself, so I got in contact with Mick Turner. He said, "Come down." So it was. I reckon it would have been one of the only players to have trained with a TAC Cup side during the week and then played in the AFL in the weekend after.
Yeah. I train with Finley on the Tuesday, so same thing. There you go.
Finley.
On the Tuesday,
what's the oval like in Finley?
We didn't go for 3 hours.
A couple of beers after training.
Talking. Yeah, exactly. So I think training might have gone for 40 minutes max. But,
couple of stretches.
Yeah, it was fun.
Couple of circle works.
That's it. Dude, I think we did 2 drills for maybe 20 minutes each, circle work and lane kicking. But that was cool. I mean, it was that was nice to do. I've got a great connection with the footy club at home. It does feel like home. It's nostalgic going back there, as I'm sure you felt when you went back to the Falcons. It's pretty cool to be able to even do the simple things like that you don't get to do when you play in the system. But I actually asked the footy manager the question because we've had a couple of our Irish listed players that have gone back and played Gaelic games in the off season. I asked him if I'd have not played the North Melbourne game the following week, could I have actually got a transfer and played for Finley?
Legally played.
Legally. I think I could have, was a response, but whether or not they would have let me, because I had a heap of cousins playing as well, and
wow,
I would have loved that.
That would have been a story.
That would be my highlight over the high jump outside of playing AFL.
How many goals would you kick playing for Finley, do you think? It'd be tough work. It'd still be tough.
Yeah.
Because everyone would want to stop you.
I agree. I'm not traditionally in all levels of football. I'm not a big goal kicker. 7's the most I've ever kicked in a game. And that's at AFL level. Even in juniors, so I don't know. Maybe if I could get double
digits,
unbelievable.
Have the crowd rush the oval.
Now, if I roll these numbers off at you, let's see. You said Zabe used to be an academic. Let's see how academic you are. What's going on in the background there, mate? You got the kids still awake or what?
Oh, it's Emma. She's just wandered into the kitchen.
It's fine. It's good. It's good. Now, say hi to Emma for us. Beautiful mother of your children. Now, just listen to these numbers. You tell me what they are. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 7, 3, 5, 10, 3, 3, 7, 3, 2, 3.
So hard.
It's a YouTube algorithm.
It's not my run scored in season 11 and year 12 at school.
No, that's a lot less than that, mate. You would have had a lot less around the zeros, I reckon. No, that is the position that Geelong has finished after finals, of course, since you've been at the footy club. So you've missed finals once Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So you've missed finals once in 15 years. You were drafted, I guess, pulling it back a little bit to your story. You were drafted in to the footy club at end of 2006, 2007. Geelong break the drought. They win that grand final premiership that they'd been chasing for so many years. The entire Geelong, Dan, me being a Geelong boy, it was absolute mayhem, and I'm sure Tommy experienced a bit of it. But you get drafted into that, and then you go ahead and you win 2009 and 2011. You're in a dynasty, really. You're drafted into a Geelong dynasty. At the time, was it kind of taken for granted? Well, this is just going to keep happening. Well, it sort of has with those numbers. It sort of has. You've sort of been around the mark for 15 years.
Yeah, it. I think initially it did. Yeah, absolutely. I played 10 games in my first year, maybe 9 or 10 games in my first year. The second year, maybe the same. 2009, I played pretty much all year. And took it for granted. I mean, we in my so 2011 we won the Premiership. That was in my 5th year. Here's me, the academic, working that out.
Somewhere there.
4th or 5th year, whatever it is and the side that I was playing with had only missed out on. We played in a prelim in 2010 and got beaten. I think it was a prelim. So out of 4 of the first 5 years we played in a grand final. So I'd experienced some weeks, some years. The first 2 years I wasn't playing in the side, but I got to experience grand final week. And you're right, Geelong was absolutely heaving in the lead up to the games. Then once we won in 2007, was unbelievable. It was crazy. And I was a Geelong supporter growing up as a kid, so I watched the draft and I see these kids get drafted to the clubs that they were back for as a kid and how excited they were, and that was me. In the next 10 or so years have ultimately been successful, but just without winning in a premiership. And I think that's why I'm still playing for multiple reasons, but that's one of the things that absolutely drives me to keep trying to play well and help our team be successful. We came so close in 2020 if it wasn't for Dusty Martin, but a few clubs have experienced that. I might have been a 3-time premiership player, but we get another crack at it this year. We've got pretty much a similar list. We've added a bit of youth. Hopefully we can get some development there and growth and mate, just keep players on the park this year. I reckon that's our ultimate goal.
You were saying that's what drives you, that you've been around a lot of success, but trying to get back and winning a grand final. Do you ever have to keep some of the younger guys in check that are sort of being drafted into a club that are just always in the finals, winning a lot of games throughout the season? Do you have to bring them down to earth at all?
Not really. I think as a club, and even just the Geelong, firstly the footy club environment, but also the environment of Geelong, as Will can attest to, it's laid back. They're footy mad, but it's I don't know. It doesn't allow you to get too far ahead of yourself. Not in my time as anyone being sort of really outlandish and making statements that both on and off the field. It's quite a humble club, and I think that's certainly a part of the values, and that's certainly in my time is how I've seen the club internally, but also how it's perceived outside of our 4 walls. I think people can't help but be impressed with that part of the footy club. I think it's a part of the kids growing too, that for them to work it out themselves. But if it's needed, absolutely. I still remember getting told by Bomber, that I was I was too fat and slow at periods, and then Ken Hinckley gave me some feedback in my first year at my exit review. There's always been people around if it's needed, but I certainly haven't felt our young group have needed it. I'm really impressed with how kids come into the system now. They're just so well prepared.
There's a bit of an age-old question, and it was talked about at the end of last year when you bowed out in the prelim in pretty disappointing fashion. I'm sure you'd agree. The talk started talking about too old, haven't gone to the draft to refresh the list. Near enough's been good enough and hasn't quite reached the ultimate. Where do you sit with, I guess, that side of the ledger with people saying that maybe you should have done a reset as Geelong, or you're happy always being there to compete, even though it hasn't quite got you to that ultimate goal?
Yeah, I think it's a two-parter. I think historically, because the footy club's probably been able to buck the trend a little bit in terms of keeping successful in terms of ladder position in games won over such a long period of time. I think ultimately everyone's waiting for Geelong to go down the ladder and then effectively then us not buck the trend of history. But I think the other part is that I appreciate, and I'm sure you can too, that grand finals are bloody hard to win. You're playing against some. We're going to play against some sides that go down history. The Richmond side, the Hawthorn sides of my era. They're bloody hard to win, and that's probably why they're so enjoyable. And you see players just enjoy them so much. It's just they're so hard to win. You need so much going right. You need to be in form as a side. You need your good players playing well, but you also need the bottom half of your 22, playing well, and then also you need your training squad to be training and/or playing well if they're not playing games themselves. So you need so much going right for you. And I think that's the thing that that frustrates me a little bit. That yes, we haven't performed, and maybe I haven't performed as well at times, but they're just so hard to win. And that if we can get there, it's gonna be enjoyable.
Take you back to what do you got?
I was just going to ask about, because you're talking about Geelong, not diving to the bottom and then picking up in the draft and building that way. As like an observer of the game, not being in it, I probably could have if I really really wanted to at a young age.
Here we go.
But I did my ankle early and all of that.
Shocking story.
But it does feel like Geelong often just get these guys that are like, where did he come from? And then they start contributing. Like, they're not high draft picks, but it does seem like Geelong's one of those clubs that always find these great role players that just come in and complement the team right away.
Yeah, it's
I'm not sure if that's a question, but yeah. No. I think it's valid because, like, as soon as you say that, I think about Tim Kelly, who's moved back to the Eagles, and then Harry Taylor was sort of, they're both mature age players, and we've had the draft picks. I don't know what our highest pick's been, to be honest, in my time, but it might have been Joel at pick 7 in our draft, and the next best was maybe it was an Akai Cockatoo, I reckon, at 10, and that's probably as close or as low down as we've been. So at pick sort of 15 to 20, you can look. There's still great players, and there's no guarantees with anything. But I think you probably at times they're not afraid to look outside of who might be touted as next. It's maybe let's get someone that's played in a system against men, and that's what Wells and his team have done, a couple of times. But yeah, like all clubs, we've been successful. We've also had some misses, but
think it starts with the recruiting, and then you get them in, and I think ultimately those players that have done well and flourished have enjoyed our environment, which is set up really well for players. That's what I believe. I haven't experienced another environment, but from what I can understand with players that come into our club, I think that's what they've been really impressed with. So, ultimately they give us the tools to be able to try and play our best footy.
My reflections and my thoughts on it are Geelong are an incredibly successful footy club. They're similar to West Coast, really. They focus on success and winning, and it's very hard to reset through the draft if you constantly are thereabouts. Now, teams that do reset through the draft, potentially a Sydney, but they went through a patch of not doing it as well. A lot of the good teams don't do it because they're always winning. There's not a lot of teams that go back to the bottom of the ladder, up to the top, back to the bottom. Yeah. Good teams and successful teams are around abouts, and that's why. And, I think the conversation changes if, you play a better last quarter against Richmond in 2020, or, a kick goes another way in a couple of prelim finals and you end up in a grand final and win one. The conversation changes very quickly, and there's not many moments that actually do change that. So I think, honestly, it's pretty laughable, some of the people saying that, Geelong have cooked it. Like, they haven't missed finals. They've missed once in 15 years. It's embarrassing. Tommy, I want to take you back to a memory from a winning grand final. Which year did you beat Collingwood? 2011. So I don't know if you've heard this story. I'm sure you have. Ben Reid, who was drafted in our draft year, he was a Vic Country teammate of mine. We roomed together. Good man, Ben. He had a good career at Collingwood.
Big Benny.
I think Premiership player in 2010, potentially. Yep. I think he was. He played on you in 2011. In 2011, you went big time. You had a big hot streak. You started taking big contested marks, kicking goals from outside 50, and you turned it right on. Correct?
I took some marks. I did kick a few behinds though that day.
That's okay. You won, so who cares? Who cares? You won. Not cost you the norm. Come on, mate. Let's get into the norm stories. Now, the story goes, Benny Reid spent the entire Mad Monday with Heath Shaw taking speckies on him after they've just lost a grand final, calling Hawkins. So Ben Reid would be just enjoying a beer, standing there. Heath Shaw had come taking a sideways hanger on him, knock his beer over. Hawkins! Because the day after the grand final. Is that true or not true? Tom, do you know that one?
I have heard of that. I don't really know Heath personally. I'd imagine he sort of got that personality. He seems like a great fella, but that certainly doesn't surprise me. Look, I played well, and it was probably like if I look back on it, it really gave me a lot of confidence playing well in your grand final. But Ben Reid is a very, very good at AFL play. I think he was all Australian, maybe.
Yep. Could have been the year before, 2010, I reckon.
He had a bad hip, or he had a hip operation, and he'd had bad groins throughout the year. So it was maybe right place, right time for me.
Very good.
But there you go.
What about losing the 2020 grand final as a senior player, having done what you did before in 09 and 11, and making those grand finals early in your career? Fast forward 14 years and you're in another one. What did that feel like?
Oh, it was pretty heartbreaking. Obviously, I still I think back and can't believe how much I stayed in the moment. We're up at half time, not comfortably, but we had a good lead, and Richmond offensively are just like when they've got it going, a bit like they remind me a bit of what Melbourne did. Like I haven't seen anything like what Melbourne did in this year's grand final.
Crazy
in such a big match. But I thought what Richmond did to us was incredible. That was something else. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. It was a tough year. It was a tough year for everyone, all players, all family, everyone. Everyone right across the world, right?
Yeah.
So to put so much in and then just fall short was heartbreaking. You know, it was the first losing grand final I'd been a part of. I played in a VFL grand final in 2007 and won that. I played in pre-season. Not that, you know, it's still touted as a grand final, but I hadn't actually ever lost a grand final.
Ansett Cup.
But I didn't play any Ansett. Yeah, Ansett.
I don't think it was Ansett. I think Ansett.
It was a long while. It was like
Ansett.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was
NAB Cup.
NAB Cup. I think it was a NAB. So, but yeah, it was heartbreaking, and to have, you know, have the family there and them to endure so much throughout the year, and everyone at the club sacrificed so much. Yeah, it was heartbreaking, but it was nice to get home. That was what.
Yeah.
I remember shifting my mindset to I'm looking forward to getting home now.
Yeah.
That probably made it a tiny bit easier, but yeah, it was. Yeah, they're never easy.
I got to throw some stats at you. A lot of them are good. They're all sort of records. You must be aware of Sir Swamp Thing, Mr. the guy on Twitter.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I went onto his Twitter page and I stole some of your stats. I'm just going to throw a couple of them at you. We did speak about Joel Selwood before, and he's mentioned in a couple of these. Firstly, most wins as a teammate, you and Joel. Did you guys, were you aware when that happened? Was that something that you talked about before the game, or was it after realisation?
We never talked about it beforehand. I knew it because I'd seen it somewhere along the line, but in the lead up or that we'd been close to it. And the other part of it, it's funny you say Joel's mentioning a few. Like, Joel's got so many records. So it's just like, it's just if you're lucky enough to find your way to share one with him along the way. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, to be drafted, lived. I mean, we talked about our history, so yeah, that was a nice one to be able to share with him.
That's huge. Yeah. Most wins ever as teammates. That's big.
Yeah. At the time that was tweeted, it was 193, but I think that was earlier in the season. You've won since then, but that 193 was the number that put you at number one. Yeah. Another good one. This might be my favourite one. Is most times playing in V/AFL games decided by a kick after the siren. You out of anyone ever have played in those games 11 times, only second to Joel, who's played in 10 of those games. So you've been a part of some pretty. I don't know how many of those were to win for Geelong or not, but some clutch moments.
That's crazy.
11 times.
I know. I remember speaking to our media manager Kevin Dickerson about that, and there was one that I couldn't remember, but yeah, it's pretty epic. Yeah, maybe I take that for granted a bit. I mean, for the most part, I missed a goal against the Giants. I kicked behind, so I drew the game for us. But that was, I mean, there wasn't many there then, but I've played in some games at the G, one at the Gabba that was rocking. Ash McGrath in his 10th game kicked a goal from
they went coast to coast in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I know.
I'm sorry.
You're on the back.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, it's pretty, like, it's funny because I don't necessarily think I've got a very good memory of football games. Like, you would have played with, played with footy or sport with people that can remember every ball bowled or every game that they played. And can you remember back when we played the Giants in 2015? I don't know. Those things you remember. So games at games are decided by what?
After the siren.
Yeah, kick after the siren.
So there was one that I couldn't, but even. We lose against the Lions and Ash McGrath kicks a goal. Like, yeah, I still remember where I was standing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just thinking while he was talking, how many have I played? I think I played in 6. So really? Nick Nat kicked one after the siren, took a massive hanger against North Melbourne. Yeah. And I'm the same as Tommy. Like, I remember where I was. I was on the bench. I popped my finger out of my skin and my bones, and I had my hand wrapped up in a big glove. We had the 2-1s in the finals against Port Adelaide. We had Someone else.
Have you ever been on the mark during the kick?
No, I haven't.
Have you? And Tom, have you had the one to draw? But
he won one against Hawthorn. You won any others?
No.
What's the man on the mark saying to you as you're lining up for a kick after the siren to win?
Good question.
One was the Giants one. Steve Johnson was on the mark.
The worst.
And I can't tell you what he said.
It got you, obviously. If you remember it, you would have had a few people on the mark against you, mate.
It was borderline, but we're great mates. So I probably would have done the same to him, but no, I can't. The shot against Hawthorn, I can't really remember. But like the big games that you're playing, like the crowds just, I don't know how many were there. There probably would have been like 85, 90,000. It was Saturday night, Hawthorn at the G, so. So there was a few there, and you can't hear noise. Like it's just explaining the noise that you hear to someone that's that's
a player like
there.
me.
It's crazy. Like it's like that knick-knack goal or that goal in the final. Like it's just this like one noise that. You've got kids.
Explain.
So you know the white noise that you play in your room. It sort of feels like that. Like it's just like a gentle or a loud buzz, but it's hard to explain. But I'm
sure you probably notice it more when it stops.
We copped a. No, I agree. That noise when I've had it a few. It only happens a few times. I had it once in a prelim final against North Melbourne in 2015. We started terribly, had the first 4 goals of the game kicked on us. We went in at quarter time, 0-4 at home at Subi. So people were very antsy. West Coast supporters, Hawk, which you would have been on the back end of a few of it, but the what is it, the Chardonnays would have been clinking around going, what is going on here? Anyway, Joshy Kennedy took this mark. It was a pretty nonchalant cut. Like, he took a mark, played on, struggled to tackle and kicked the goal. And I remember that moment. It's great. It is a great way to explain it. That white noise, it's like everyone in the stadium is making the same, like, shrieking, deep, like penetrating noise. It's just like this... blue noise. I don't know, but it's blue noise.
Yeah, it's not white. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a dark, deep noise.
I got to throw just a couple more at you. Well, I want to know why. So in between 2019 and 2021, your first week of finals, you kicked 2 goals 10. So over those seasons. But in the second week of the finals, you kicked 13-3.
Oh,
what was the difference? Game on? Is it just I don't know, season on the line? You clutch?
No, well, I would if I could have my it depends where you finish. If you get the second chance, if you're playing top 4, and like we did this year, I'd love to win the first game and get the week off, but that hasn't been a path that we've taken very often. But I don't know why that is. It's a privilege to play in finals. The games are different. They're faster. They're highly skilled. I'm not sure. I know we played Port Adelaide in a prelim last year. First final, and I kicked a no goals 5 and kicked one out in the full. So that certainly doesn't help that stat. But I don't know why it is. Playing a good side.
Hawk, can I?
They're different.
So I'm on radio over here on Perth, and when you got bundled out this year, a lot was spoken about that losing record in finals in general, but in that first week of finals, you traditionally, as a team, haven't played well in that first week of finals. How much is that discussed in the group, and what's the reason for it? Now, before you answer, I know it's discussed in the group. It has to. There's no way that you would have tried you would have not talked about it. Talked about it a lot. Tried to break it down. I know how this stuff goes in a footy club, but what is it? Do you have an answer?
No, I don't. And that probably goes to show that footy coaching's not going to be in my DNA when I finish playing footy, but I sort of leave it up to those that are smarter than me. But yeah, look, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it hasn't fallen our way. Yeah, you come up against good sides. That's everyone wants to win. I don't think sides want to win more than the next or their opposition, but things just haven't gone our way. Yeah, that's as plain and simple as I can see it. I don't discuss our record, internally with anyone. I mean, we're sort of a pretty positive group. My experience is it can sort of weigh down on people. If it's talked about too much, I'm sure it is in circles, but that's sort of my attitude and towards it. But yeah, I can't answer that one.
It's like West Coast's record away from home. That's what happens over here in Perth is people start talking about you can't win away from home, and it builds
flat track bullies.
Yeah, there you go, flat track bullies. That's a nice little quote. Most media outlets just copy and paste that from their little templates straight in when we start losing a few games away from home. Talking about home and home ground advantages, Cardinia Park, which has gone through a plethora of sponsorship names. They got some. You must have some great workers up there in marketing at Cardinia Park because it's been everything. I'll tell you what, it's skilled stadium. What have we got?
Still been success.
There's plenty. See, it changes every year. Anyway, Cardinia Park. Tommy Hawkins has played. This doesn't seem right, actually. This doesn't seem right at all.
Say it anyway.
It's probably right. In your 302 games, you've played 95 games at Cardinia Park. Does that sound right?
Well, we've probably right. Like I would have played maybe
100, 105.
25. I would have probably played 25 finals, and then we only get 7. Well, early on in my career, we only got sort of 7, maybe 8, and just now we're playing 9 home games a year. So
yep. So it's about one every 3.
About right.
So 95 games, Cardinia Park. You're 83-12. So 83 wins, 12 losses. That is some sort of home record. That's compared to my 0-5 at Cardinia Park at an average losing margin of 84 points, and my home record of 66-35. So a lot of people talk about the home advantage of Perth and the travel, but Cardinia Park is an absolute fortress, and you cannot win in it. Why? If you're an opposition team.
Yeah, if you look, I mean, we're lucky. We get to our facility is at GMHBA Stadium.
Oh, there you go. Is that what it's called now?
but so was Subiaco. That's not a reason. I don't take that. No.
Yeah, true. Okay, right.
Go again.
I just think it's just honestly, that's what I think it is. It's a bit of a unique ground for
size and shape.
People that haven't experienced it, size and shape. It's quite a. I mean, it's normal size length, but it's a really skinny ground. I mean, we get to train on it, every day. So we know the dimensions of it. It can be a bit of a hard ground to attack because it is skinny, but our system works at the ground and. We've got it basically everyone barracking for us within the stadium, which is soon to hold 40,000, which is pretty cool. But that's another story. But yeah, I think we just know it so well that
it's such a shocking trip. It's such a shocking trip down to Geelong. So I can say this, Geelong boy, it's just a shocker, mate. Especially from Perth, you fly your 4 hours on the plane, you get to the airport, and you think, 15 minutes to the hotel. Nah, you're jumping on the West Gate, and you're down to Geelong, and then you pull up, and it's about 10 degrees colder down there, and you get up for the morning recovery and go for a walk down an Eastern Beach, and It's bloody cold there. It's windy.
Yeah.
It's very foreign. It's different to anywhere else that you'll ever go, and it's terrible, Dan. It's just terrible.
Yeah, cold weather sounds awful. I've got one more stat to throw at you, and it's going to lead to a question because you, more than any other player, have kicked more goals than Fremantle in a game. You've done it 3 times, so you've kicked more goals than them. Will's often talked about, and you might not be willing to answer this question, but Will's often talked about on this podcast about how Ben Brown was his bunny, that when he wasn't in form or whatever, but you're playing North Melbourne, that you'd get thrown on Ben Brown and you'd have a ripper.
I will just say that he's just won a premiership the year that I retire, so I don't know if they go into.
Well, there you go. And I'm a big Ben Brown guy.
That's right in the sweet spot. That one.
So, do you have a bunny? Are you willing to name someone who you know? Oh boy, I'm going to at least kick 3 or 4 on him.
You got to pick someone.
Come on, name someone.
No, you can't.
No. Oh, there's plenty of players that got a hold of me. I can go that way.
No, we'd like you to go the other way, please, Tom.
No.
Well, okay. Is it
he's
a
too
team?
Nice a bloke.
Is it a team that
Lockie Henderson when he played? No. No. No, I actually don't think I kicked many against Lockie.
Honestly, probably Scully. Probably Scully.
Sides, like I kicked a few against Melbourne early days. It'd be interesting. I don't actually know who I've kicked the most goals, what side I've kicked the most goals against. So, look, without naming any players, maybe I'll look through, or we can both look through the records of
who did you kick 7 on? Who did you kick 7 on that day? What team?
Yeah, Brisbane. Harris. I was probably a few.
Harris
was
Harris Andrews is your bunny. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you said it, not me. No, I don't. I don't know.
That's all right. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I don't really want to name anyone, but no one really comes to mind either. I think
lies.
Some days you just get lucky as a forward, right place, right time, and then you start getting fed by your teammates. And
Tommy was he's a scary bloke to play on because we spoke about his weight. He rolled into Geelong's dynasty in 2007, and we're talking about really rolled in there. 115 kilos, just rolled him up the hill down to Caninian Park. Anyway, whenever I was preparing to play on Tom, and I don't think I'm the same as you two. I don't remember games vividly if nothing happens, but I don't think we played on each other that often. We did a bit, probably a little bit towards the back end, but
one of your last games,
literally every game I remember playing on Hawk, it was a scary prospect because you're in the back, usually in the back of the 50, and he plays with a lot of room, and because he's so big and I'm a scrawny little scrapper. He just used to know to stand right there, put it there, boys. He gets his hand out, he just points to the spot, and it doesn't matter how much you scout it, how much you know what he's doing, you can't get your body around that big barge ass of Tommy Hawkins. Now, now this takes me to this is probably the most memorable moment, which is, it's disappointing seeing as though we're such great mates, but it's okay. I think we can touch on it now. I'll do most of the talking here, Tommy, because I think you should just be very careful. Current player, still in the system. But let's talk about the tribunal, Tom. For most part of your career, you've had an exemplary record. Not many appearances at the tribunals, not many sightings. But towards the back end, you start getting a bit angry. A couple of kids at home. It's getting a bit frustrating, not getting your sleep, not getting your 8 hours of sleep. You start sort of getting a little bit more white line fever, I think. And it takes us to an incident in 2019 where Scully, Will, myself, was tasked with playing on Tom. And I'll put it as a precursor to this. In this final, 2019, we played Geelong semi-final. So we played at the G. I was playing on Hawk, and he kicked 4 goals. Once again, not one of those on me, I promise you. And I absolutely promise you, and I bet you can back me up with this. He didn't kick one on me, and I was actually playing well on him. Anyway, we fast forward a little bit. I don't know the incident really that well. I don't have a great recollection of it. But there was a bit of a transfer of play Tom and I were the furthest partner on the field. And I was doing exactly what I do best and scrapping the absolute shit out of Hawk. And I was pulling his jumper. I was smacking his arms. We'd had a bit of chat. I think we'd had a bit of chat, a bit of lip, which is all I used to love it. I used to love playing Hawk because you could, with guys that you're mates with, you can actually go harder. Guys you don't know, you'll agree with this, Hawk. Guys you don't know, you got to be a little bit careful. You don't know who's going to take the wrong thing the wrong way. Yeah. But we were going pretty hard at each other that day. Anyway, it built up into a bit of a crescendo where this transfer of play happened. It went from one side of the ground to the other, and I was not letting Hawk in front of me because, like I just said, he just puts his big barge ass out in front and points, and you can't stop him, and I was in big trouble if that happened. So I was staying in front of him, scrapping, and then whack, lights out. Lights out. And I don't know what happened. I don't think Tom really knows what happened either. But I ended up on the ground, and I think did you mark the foot? You didn't mark the footy, did you?
Nah.
And you ended up anyway. This story ends up with you in the tribunal. So I don't know. You can have right of reply, but that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it's certainly disappointing. It's probably one thing, in all honesty, that I still trying to find ways not to put myself in those positions because it's ultimately, I mean, just like, well, personally, just it costs you game, it costs you money, and it's embarrassing, and I am far from a thug off field. Anyway, so
on the field, I think on the field you're far from a thug as well. I think
not thug, but I found myself in positions that I shouldn't find myself in. So that was disappointing, and particularly because of our friendship and how far we go back. But I think that's like you talk about the way that you play and how you've been very successful. How many games did you play?
Close to 200. Yep.
Yeah, so you've forged an incredible career, and that's how you play, and that's what you come up against in fullbacks. You ultimately they're trying to. My opponent's always trying to stop me from being near the footy, and if you do your work early, just like if I do enough work early, I'll put myself in a good position. So is my opponent. So
that particular incident,
I wrestle and with everyone that I play on, but
that particular incident, right? Like a lot of people have asked us to talk about it, right? So I think it's important to talk about it. But that particular incident, I went into that game trying to get you to do exactly that. I'm honest, and I did it in other games going against guys that I thought were better than me, to be honest. I always felt that you were more athletic, stronger. You're in a position to beat me. So I thought, well, how do I beat you? I think, mentally frustrating and becoming so annoying that you become not focused on your game. So the way I ended up looking at the end of that whole thing, and look, it doesn't look great on camera. But again, that's just how footy goes. Things happen on the field that you can't take back. So, like, I actually looked at that whole incident as if I'd succeeded, and that was just unfortunate the way it ended up for you. To be honest, I mean, you ended up missing a prelim final because of it.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about the incident is that my intention was never to get you high. In that particular incident, I meant to cast my arm across and maybe get you through the midriff, but as we'd clashed throughout the day, I think we'd both sort of we both had done that at times, but and continue to tread the line, but ultimately I got you high and I missed a week. But
it's hard for it's hard for people to understand that it's not like when the gladiators do battle, but if you're not in the heat of battle, it's sometimes hard when people watch an incident and they see that you've hit me high and they see me go to the ground. The conversation instantly goes, Tom Hawkins is a thug, deliberately did it. it doesn't. There's no real context around it. There's no context for 3 quarters that I'm just absolutely belting him behind play and we're belting each other, and it's just a moment in time. That's why my overall opinion on things like happened this out on the footy field, it's a moment in time, and it's regrettable. And I know Hawk regrets it, and I wouldn't want to be a part of it either, but shit happens.
And also, like, we get to stop it, go frame by frame, watch it again and again and again, and you get to dissect it. But for me, like, just watching it, because I've watched it plenty of times, it's great. It does look like you were trying to just give him a little, like a bit of a hit in the mid. And, like, it's one of those occasions, and we've seen it a few times, where a guy swings to hit something, but then you unfortunately just cop the wrong spot.
We can't have him reply to that because he's going to get himself in trouble. No. So that's enough. Now, just leave it because you're getting strife, mate. Now, I've got 2 more questions to ask, and then we got a very, very, very important segment that I'm sure you know, Hawk. I'm sure that's why you're here. Schocial Media, the People's segment, very well known. I'm sure that you know all about it.
I cast my eye across that this afternoon.
Good.
So I do know.
You'll be prepared. So before you do that, though, you've spoken about your whole career. You've played with like some of the greatest of all greats, in the back line, in the forward line, in midfielders. You can name them, Scarlett in the back line, Gary Ablett in the midfield. Guys you've played around your whole career. Big question, but what makes great players great? One thing. I know it's a lot of things, but what across the spectrum makes them great?
I just think that the great players I've played with are competitive, and you talk about you and I playing on each other, and we're friends, but we're competitive, and I've seen that with Matt Scarlett. There's no greater example. I think he played a little bit under. He was unbelievably strong, but he just did not want to get beaten, and then he added this attacking element to his game, and then he became one of the greatest defenders of all time. And then like Gary Ablett Jr., like Gaz is just like if he comes around to your place, you'll be that we'll find a ball and we'll be trying to hit something, and there'll be something on the line. Steve Johnson, like, is mercurial as probably anyone that I've maybe seen. I mean, there's been a few that are like that, but like he, again, competitive. Like, playing golf with him is a nightmare. Like, I remember playing against him one day, and I was at 13th Beach, and I was clearly beating him, and then he's like, right, we might have been playing for a pineapple, and then he's like double or nothing down the down with 2 holes to go. Like, I was up by 5 or 6 shots, and then he probably beat me by, mate, let's say 2 shots. He beat me in the last 2 holes. I ended up I've beaten him by 3, but I owe him $50. Like, they're so competitive. So yeah, that's my experience. If you're competitive and you want something, it leads to a lot of other things.
Yeah, great. Look, I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's answered probably my second question as well. So we find ourselves at the very most important part of this interview, which is Schocial Media, Dan. The People's segment. Podcasting world's going crazy for this, and it's a great name as well. Now, Tommy, this is from the people, for the people, and we're going to start with Mark Blakely.
How's it feel to have been Sydney Prescott's boyfriend in Scream 2? Now, do you know who Sydney Prescott's boyfriend was in Scream 2? It was it was Jerry O'Connell. Do you know who Jerry O'Connell is?
All right, for anyone listening and for you, Hawk, a bit of homework. I know you don't love the classroom, mate, but you got to Google who Jerry O'Connell is. He's a very good lookalike.
He's in Sliders, also Kangaroo Jack. He was the main character in Kangaroo Jack.
There's a better film that he's in. I still can't pinpoint. But
what's his name? Jerry
O'Connell. That's okay. You have a look at that while we get to the next one.
All good sometimes.
Yes.
Tom, as an avid super coach and fantasy player, I have to ask, why, oh why, do you hand off so many goals? It's pretty frustrating for players having you in their team.
It's a good question.
You'd be a fool for having me in your side, I would think. Don't know.
Goal assists play a big part of your game. Is that you driven or
sorry.
Is that you driven or coaching?
Yeah. No, I think it's like my philosophy is that if someone's in a better spot, the ball should be given to that person. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And I've probably learnt that off teammates along the way. So like Cam Mooney who was one of my mentors in the early stages of my career. He played that way. Stevie J played that way. Stokesy, Shannon Burns, those guys played that way. So, it was probably like in some ways it was built into the way I play when I was, early on in the system. But I think it's important, and it's a philosophy I'll keep playing to. It's funny, the Supercoach stuff. I play NBA fantasy, and I am absolutely obsessed with NBA fantasy.
Wow,
I'm a shithouse manager, but I've become that manager that then looks at players and asks the question of why don't they shoot more, or why don't they handle the ball and give themselves a chance to assist, or why do they not try and compete for the rebounds? I've turned into everything that I never enjoyed about.
I can see you sliding into DMs of your league companions trying to throw up trades every Monday. I can see the Tom Hawkins trade coming through right there. LeBron James for some pleb.
Yeah. Do you know, you're right, Will, but I also do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All right, this one's from Katrina J. Mercer.
Best backman you've played on and best West Coast backman you've played on.
Oh yeah.
Or apart from the man on your right there.
There you go. Hold on.
Darren Glass was bloody hard to play on him. I was young too, so
bullied.
He would have been licking his lips playing on me. But you know what? I honestly you learn things off playing against good players, and although it wasn't much fun at the time, I did learn a fair bit off it. So I reckon Darren Glass has been one of the hardest players I've played on, and probably in my career. I love playing on Brian Lake. He probably had the better of me over our duels, but again, I learn a bit from him. Alex Rance has been a great defender. I've played on some great players.
Good answer. Couple more. Tom Anera sent one through.
Yeah, this was sent through an email. Interested to hear about how players feel about online criticism and how you think it affects them. Also, is there any support offered by the club to help with this regard?
There's plenty of support by both like my teammates, managers, club, your PDM, but also the AFL PA do a bit of work in this space. And it's probably not till I've got a bit older that I've lent on the PA a bit more. But they do a wonderful job for players. But me personally, I've sort of I read stuff both on my social media, but it doesn't really faze me that much. I've got I don't know, it's sort of, I can read it and move on pretty quick, but I think it's certainly an issue. It's an issue in sport, but I think it's more broadly, it's an issue in society. I think, I get worried for the next generation of younger kids. I think there'll be things in place for when my kids hopefully are older and start going on social media. But it's a bit of a scary thought to think that, when I was even like 12 to, let's say, 18, there wasn't Facebook, or maybe there was the start of Facebook when I was 18. No Twitter. It was MySpace. I didn't have that, but there was no real ability to be able to connect. We didn't have mobile phones, like MSN Messenger, but then you had to openly put yourself.
I had to add someone
onto it.
ASL.
Yeah.
Age, sex, location.
Yeah. As well as you'd probably
it'll be a challenge.
You'd be on a fair few people's multis, I reckon. With you'd feature, so I'm sure you'd probably cop a bit of that as well.
I've got a folder on my phone of screenshots that of funny. Not so, some people wouldn't regard them as funny, but I've screenshotted and have a folder of comments that get made. Not so much bad ones, but just funny ones that I've. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, you're the last leg of the multi or something.
So I'm not planning on doing anything with them.
That's great. I'd love to get a hold of some of those. That'd be very
crackers.
Good. Yes, I'd love to get a hold of them. Now, last one, I reckon. Saxon_soundness. I think this is an appropriate way to end Schocial Media.
What soap do you use every time you give Scully a bath? Or just tell us what soap you use.
I didn't know where that was going. Sexual, wasn't it? No comment.
You're a highly sponsored athlete, Tom. All I see on my Instagram feed is
I was looking earlier.
Rod and Gun, and who else have we got?
Braun, the shavers. You shave like once a week just to post on Instagram.
Do you want to slip a couple of promoted section in here, mate? Maybe just say hello to a couple of sponsors.
Well, they'll all be watching. There'll be plenty of eyes on. I don't want to, just in case I upset any from your end. So,
well, maybe we throw out for a soap sponsor. Maybe if there's a soap sponsor listening, maybe we do a co-brand, a Hawkins Schofield soap.
Very good.
Wouldn't that be good? Just a nice little segment.
Imperial leather.
Look, mate, that brings us to the end. Appreciate your time. No, Emma's probably put the kids down for you, and you've been gifted a couple of hours here with the boys, so we appreciate you hanging out with us, mate. If anyone's listening, you know where you find everything. backchatpodcast.com.au, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube. Sign up to the YouTube channel. But Tommy Hawkins, thanks for joining us, mate. It's been unreal.
Good, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And it's good fun. It's great reflecting. And I really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me on.
When you get your podcast up and going, mate, I'll be the first on there. Thanks.
Absolutely.
I'll be second if you like.
Done.